Okay. I hand it off to you, Eric, now.
Okay. Thanks, Charlene. I am actually locked out of my office, so I'm going to just be transparent and say I don't have the script, and this being my first meeting as chair, I may need a little help here. But welcome, everybody. First order of business is to do a roll call to see who's here. We'll usually start with City of Annapolis, so I am here representing.
And then I can do the rest of them, Eric.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Charlene. I appreciate it.
No problem. Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City,
Hi.
Baltimore County,
Present.
Carroll County,
Here.
Hartford County, Howard County.
Hi, Chrissy Joff here.
Great. Queen Anne's County,
Here.
MDE, MDP.
Here.
Thank you. MHSO.
Hi, Cynthia Spriggs here.
Thank you. MDOT
Patrick McMahon here.
MDOT
Larry List here.
and then we've got MDOT
Francine Waters here.
Great. And do we have any guests that are here today who'd like to introduce themselves to the group?
I'm filling in for Catherine Solerano from Maryland Department of the Environment.
Great. Thank you.
Susie Solo as behalf of the Transportation Alternatives team.
Great. And then Baltimore County said that they're also here. Jesse verified. Wonderful. Well, if that is all, then we can move on to the approval of the January minutes.
Great. Thanks, Charlene. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the minutes that were attached with the calendar invite. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
And Queen Anne's County will second.
Thanks so much. Now we'll take a vote on the minutes. You mind doing that again, Charlene? Or do we just do a, yeah, I guess we go through cycle.
You can just do an A or A and then A, yeah.
Okay. Can I get a, all yays, please say so?
Yeah. Yay.
Yay.
Hey.
Yay.
Okay, good enough, I think. Any nays? Okay. The minutes are approved. We have a full slate of presentations today. Thank you to Charlene for helping to put that together. The first item on the agenda in terms of presentations is from the Baltimore City Bicycle Count Program.
But actually we have a surprise, we have a addition to the agenda. Sorry, they got put in last minute. And so we'll start with MDOT SHA is here to present, and I believe it'll be Susan Spillo. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. So, got your presentation up, Susan, unless you, whoops. There we go. If you're ready to present.
I am ready. You go to the next slide. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Susie Solo. I'm with the Transportation Alternatives Grants team with SHA. Just wanted to give you an overview of the programs that we offer. Our application system will be opening up soon, so I wanted to make sure everyone's aware. So you can go ahead to the next slide. The purpose of the grants team. SHA grants team administers the Transportation Alternatives, Rec Trails, Safe Routes to Schools, Scenic Byways, Federal Land Access Program, and Congressional Earmark projects. The purpose of the staff is to be a liaison and facilitate with the project sponsors through both the federal and the state regulations. Go ahead. Transportation Alternative. Transportation Alternatives is competitively selected reimbursable federal aid program with active and related transportation projects. Some of the projects that we have funded in the past: create bicycle and pedestrian facilities, restore historical transportation buildings. We also convert abandoned railroad corridors to pedestrian trails, and we mitigate highway runoff. Go ahead. Rails to Trails. Rails to Trails is also a competitively selective reimbursable federal aid program. Some of the projects that we have done with the federal aid, with the transportation alternative, some of the projects we have done with the recreational trails funds are to develop and maintain land and water-based recreational trails, trail-related facilities, and motorized and non-motorized recreational trail uses. 30% of the RTP funds must be used for motorized trail uses. 30% must be used for non-motorized, and then there's 40% that go to the diverse trail uses. Go ahead. Our federal funding allocation. This is an example of what our funding allocation looked like for 2024. We do anticipate the funding to be similar this year coming around. And transportation alternatives funds are typically allocated to the MPOs. First off, they get a pot of funds that they can then look at the applications and determine what projects they would like to fund. After that determination has been made, the projects then fall into the state flex funds, which there are state flex funds available to fund projects outside and inside MPO areas. Recreational trails funds are treated similarly. They have state flex, and those flex funds can be obligated to any area in the state. Federal funding requirements. So the grant is an 80% reimbursable, 20% required match. Project sponsors must be required to provide the additional match for SHA administrative and construction oversight costs. When it comes to the Rec Trails projects, Rec Trails 20% match can be in-kind match. For the transportation alternatives projects, the 20% match is a cash match. These grant fundings are eligible for non-infrastructure, feasibility studies, design, construction, and trail maintenance projects. Go ahead. So a little bit about the non-infrastructure feasibility and design project requirements. An example of the non-infrastructure funding would be the road safety audit, vulnerable road user assessment, education and outreach efforts for safe routes to school. For this, the sponsor must submit an application and include a complete scope of work, cost estimate, and the study area if applicable. For the feasibility study, again, they must complete an application, include a complete scope of work, cost estimate, and a project map of the desired project location. Something different that we were doing this year that we haven't done in years past is design funding can be applied for, but you must complete design up to 100%. In the past, we've done design up to 30%, and then applicants have come back in to complete the 100. This is a new change that we're only completing design up to 100%. Again, sponsors will complete an application, submit a concept level drawings. We also need to know the limits of disturbance, the right-of-way impacts, community outreach, and a cost estimate for the planning level materials that will be used. Go ahead. Construction and trail maintenance requirements. Construction funding can be applied for, and the sponsor has to submit at least 30% preliminary design plans to be considered for construction funding. You will also need to include a detailed cost estimate, limit of disturbance, right-of-way impacts, and community outreach. Trail maintenance funding can only be used for trails that have already been completed. Sponsors must submit a complete scope of work, cost estimate, and a project map of the location. A trail maintenance plan is preferred, but it's not required. Go ahead. So here are the list of eligible transportation alternative projects. There are 12, just to give you a couple examples. There's on and off-road pedestrian bicycle facilities. As I spoke earlier, the conversion of abandoned railroad corridors to trails. We also have historic preservation and rehabilitation of historic transportation facilities. Go ahead, Charlene. And then we have safe routes to school and recreational trails. Those are important to add in there also. Go ahead. Safe routes to school eligibility. This has changed from previous years. Under the IIJA bill, we are now able to offer safe routes to school through to schools, including primary, middle, and high school, which is grades kindergarten through 12. So we are now allowed to go to 12th grade with these projects, which is awesome. The project activities must take place within a 2-mile radius of the school. And these projects can be in non-infrastructure feasibility studies, design, and construction projects. Go ahead. Recreational trails also has 8 categories of eligible projects. We have the maintenance and restoration of existing recreational trails, lease and purchase of recreational trail construction and management maintenance equipment. Go ahead. Install of new trails structures, including boardwalks and bridges, and rehabilitation of trail structures, including boardwalk and bridges. Okay. Here is a list, or here's some pictures of previous projects that we've completed. We've got the Queen Anne's County Cross County Connector, which was a TA project completed a few years ago. We also have some rec trails projects there as well in the middle. And then we have the Somerset County Route 413 hiker biker trail. So who can apply? Local governments, recreational transportation authorities, school districts, local education agencies, tribal governments, and nonprofits are all welcome to apply for these applications. The grants program online is a great process that we've established a couple years ago. It is the one-stop portal. It's a single application this year, so regardless if you're applying for rec trails, transportation alternatives, or safe routes to school, you will go to one application. If you happen to select the wrong type that you're looking for as far as safe routes to school, transportation alternatives, the greatest thing is that we're all in this application process, so we can make sure that the right program gets your application for review. You'll have to log in with your email and create yourself a profile, and then you will go in and you're able to fill out the application online. Something else we're doing a little different this year is we have the application window, which is April 1st to May 15th. However, we're offering a completeness check. If you submit your application between April 1st and April 15th, the grants team will perform a completeness check and coordinate with you during this window for any updates that may be required. In previous years, we did not always receive complete applications. So the Transportation Alternatives team and Rec Trail would communicate with the project sponsors to get everything that we would need for review. Unfortunately, applications are coming in as a robust, and there's not as many transportation alternative program liaisons as there were in the past. So we need to kind of work together to make sure we have a completeness check. So please remember that between April 1st and 15th, we can do a completeness check of your application and let you know if you're missing anything. Each application must have a detailed project scope, including the starting and ending points, a detailed budget, a project map with the limit of disturbances, right-of-way impacts, environmental impacts, and a project schedule. Go ahead. So this is how we typically look at the grants projects process. We'll have the applications come in April and May. June and July, we try and reach out to the applicants and do a site visit and see the project for our own eyes, and then we will meet with State Flex. We'll meet with the MPOs and discuss the projects so they can be awarded in the fall. After they're awarded in the fall, we'll then go to the kickoff meetings. After the kickoff meetings are held, we roll into the program phase, which will complete the MOU, the NEPA, and the right-of-way. After the program phase is complete, we'll roll into the procurement phase, begin to initiate the grant work, and last but not least, we have the reimbursement and closeout process. Okay. Here's some great resources for you. We have the Transportation Alternatives website, Recreational Trails website, which are separate at this point. We are working on getting them combined since we are all one program. We also have the guidance for LPAs and subrecipients and federal grant resources. These are all great resources to look at when you're filling out your application. Yeah. Some takeaways from this presentation is to make sure that your application is in between April 1st and April 15th if you would like the completeness check completed. The application window is April 1st until May 15th. Plan ahead, know your project narrative, market the story, build support, and ensure you have all the project documents prepared for your grant application. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. I assume you have some time for a few questions if there are any.
Yes, if there's any questions.
Any questions from the group? I have one, but I'll defer to anybody else if there's.
Queen Anne's County had a quick question. Do you require letters of intent? And then how can POS funding be used in conjunction with these grant programs?
Letters of intent they're encouraged to come in with the application, but they're not a need. You're more than welcome to include them with your application when you apply. Can you be specific? Can you tell me what POS means?
Program open space funding. Our Parks and Rec department uses it for various trail projects, and always trying to figure out the grant money and the match. You know, it's a learning experience for me. So I'm just trying to figure out when we can use program open space to help match, or whether we have to use local funds and local monies, and the best way to figure out that kind of funding puzzle, if you have any guidance on that.
I would have to get back to you in regards to the rec trails portion of this. I do know with Transportation Alternatives, you can use open space funding as a match, but I'd have to look into recreational trails for you. Cheryl Ladota is the guru that knows a lot about our funding here at SHA, and I would recommend that if you want some more specifics about what is covered, that I can provide you her information.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have questions out there? I'll go ahead with just one. Susan, if we submitted an earmark request, a congressional directed spending request for a trail project that also is eligible for TAP funding, should we go ahead and also submit the TAP application, or does that confuse things?
So when did you submit your earmark?
Just last week. It was
just last week.
Yeah.
No, you could also put in your TAP because you don't know which one's going to hit first.
Yeah.
So I would suggest do both of them.
Yeah, I was planning on doing that. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. And I will put Cheryl's information in the chat box for you, Steve. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And Eric, we were going to follow up just with the presentation on the Transportation Alternatives Program and BMC's role with the process and kind of the schedule for this year.
Great.
So, this. Okay. So this was covered by Susie earlier, but the TA programs is set aside of the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. So it has to meet one of the qualifying categories. And let's see. So approximately 59% of the TA funds allocated to a state are then apportioned to MPOs in urbanized areas of more than 200,000. So in Maryland, that would include BRTB, TPB, and WillMapCo. So approximate funds available for the region for this upcoming TA fiscal year is about 4.2 million for the Baltimore region and 412,000 for the Aberdeen, Bel Air South, Bel Air North area. MPOs are responsible for completing a competitive project selection process for those funds. While the remaining 41% of funds can be allocated anywhere throughout the state through a competitive selection process managed by MDOT-SHA. So with the BMC project evaluation, these are multiple criteria are looked at, including the impact on high need areas. And this is part of the requirement with IIJA, but also our interest in equity. But high need areas could be low income, transit dependent, rural, or other areas. We're also looking at the expected benefits to the community, feasibility and project readiness, sponsors' demonstrated ability to manage federal aid projects, how the project advances the goals and strategies of Resilience 2050, and how the project would improve public safety for all users. So kind of the broad schedule is, she mentioned the application period is from April 1st to the 15th. BMC then receives the proposals in late May, and we conduct the evaluation and then do site visits in collaboration with MDOT-SHA. The applicants are reached out to you for comments and questions, and let's see. Then the BMC review team would then develop project selection recommendations. If the answers are provided promptly and we're able to stay on schedule, we would anticipate being able to present to technical committee in July. So they would then decide if they would like to approve the recommendations via resolution to then go to BRTB, would then be presented to BRTB, and then they would vote on a resolution. If that resolution is passed by BRTB, it would then be submitted to MDOT-SHA, and that would include the recommendations for which project should be funded using the Baltimore region and the Aberdeen, Bel Air South, Bel Air North funds. So just some elements that have changed with the IIJA we wanted to highlight. And this is something we're still working out some of the details with as we coordinate with MDOT-SHA, but based from IIJA, an individual project should be awarded no more than 50% of the allocated funds for an urbanized area. So that's something that's different. If we take a look at the expected amounts for the Baltimore region, half of that amount would be 2.1 million, whereas with the Aberdeen, Bel Air South, Bel Air North, it would be $206,000. So we're exploring what are the limitations with that? What are, I guess, some of the kind of ways maybe we could use this to our advantage for the region? And below that is just the code language that describes that requirement. And that's and also the set aside implementation guidance that discusses that element as well. So another thing we wanted to highlight is that under IIJA, projects eligible under the recreational trails program are also eligible under the TA program. As Susie mentioned, any recreational trail project funded under the TA program will follow the same procedures and state uses for all recreational trail projects. So that would be something to talk to MDOT-SHA more about. That may affect like what kind of match is required, different elements like that. And we've got linked the recreational trails program manual for the state. So one thing we want to do coming up later this year, it wouldn't impact this cycle of applications, but we wanted to work with you all and have a TA work group, Transportation Alternative Program work group, to look at project evaluation and the scoring criteria. We'd like to get that work group's feedback and to develop it, and also the full BPAG group would also have input. And then also a discussion about eligible project types. So there's a wide variety of project types that are allowed. And if we just wanted to kind of as a group, look at them and reassess if all of them should be included, if there should be some that are considered to be more of a focus for the region or not. So tentative schedule would be to request volunteers for the work group from BPAG members in June or July of this year. Then have about 3 meetings starting in August and going through to October, looking at developing the draft scoring criteria, considering the project types. And then, of course, feedback will be requested from all BPAG members at key points during that process. And then going to BRTB and the technical committee for approval in November/December. We wanted to do it by that time to give applicants enough time to consider if the scoring criteria changes, to consider if that would impact their application. So that's just a kind of an overview of some elements we wanted to highlight and how BMC fits into this process. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one question, Charlene.
Yeah.
If a request comes in for TAP funding that exceeds the 50% of BRTB's allowance, does that automatically get kicked over to the state's flexible budget that was kind of in that $11 million range?
Yeah, so the state would be able to consider those projects. When we do this process, when the review team's reviewing, they are in contact with M.SHA because they're also, they're reviewing all the projects statewide. So that information would be conveyed to them. One thing, Regina, and I don't know if Susie would be able to answer this, but I'm going to reach out to Cheryl to see if it used to be that if you had $2 million for a year for TA in a region, you could fund a $3 million project by using the region's full 2 million, and then I guess coordinate with the state to potentially cover the rest with the flex. And so we're going to see how that would work with the 50% limitation.
Yes, unfortunately, I can't answer that one because I know there's been a lot of different discussions on how that's going to take place. And I'm not even really sure there's been like a determination of that yet. So it would probably be best to have a conversation with Cheryl about that.
Yeah, definitely. Right. That was a good question, Eric. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions in the group? All right. Well, I think we can, unless you have anything else to share, Shirley, I think we can move on to the next item.
So the next item is going to be Queen Anne's County Pedestrian and Bicycle Master Plan by Steve Cahoon.
We are not doing the Baltimore City.
Oh my gosh, I skipped Baltimore City. I apologize.
I know
So
there
next
was
would be Baltimore City.
I wasn't sure myself, but is John Leishman and Quentin Batts here? Okay, great.
Yep.
John. All right. Well, I'll hand it over to you to give this presentation. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. So hi, everybody. So I'm John Leishman. I'm the bike planner for Baltimore City Department of Transportation, and I'm here with Quentin from Rails to Trails, and I'm gonna be talking to you about the Bike Counter program. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so a little history overview here. So we ended up getting a MDOT Bikeways Award in summer of 2021, and we ended up closing the first phase of the project in summer of 2023. Then we got the Rail to Trails Award in fall of 2023, as Quinn's going to be talking about. And then we have more installations that we're doing currently. If we go over to the right here, we see the key figures map. We have this is the map that shows the 10 active counter locations throughout Baltimore City. And then on the left here, we have a little chart that shows kind of the ridership for each counter location. We hope to add about 8 to 10 more bike counters with phase 2 of this MDOT award. And so that's what I'm currently working on as well. We can go to the next slide. Thank you, Charlene. So this is the active bike counter info. So we use 2 bike counters in the bike counter program here at the city. The first one is the Zelt counter on the Jones Falls Trail, which is actually goes along the inner harbor in this specific photograph. Then we use the Pyro counter as well, which is on South Macon Street. The first counter on Jones Falls Trail is a normal bike counter. You know, it's installed in the ground, goes across, a bike rides over, and it takes 1 count. For the one on South Macon Street, it's on the post. It's the substance on the back on the post there that actually uses infrared technology, so it counts bicyclists and pedestrians as well. And so as we see here with the rolling year from the 18th of 2023 to March 17th of 2024, we have 567,000 total bike counts. Our peak day was November 20th, which was 11,000 in a day. And we have a daily average of 2,000 as well. And then we see here, so the South Macon Street is obviously in first place because they count pedestrians as well as bicyclists with 414 on the daily average. And then it just kind of goes down: Jones Falls, Maryland Ave, Key Highway, East Center Street, West North Ave, etc. Just kind of shows the daily average for all of those as well. And we can go to the next slide here. Cool. Quentin, there you go.
So as John mentioned, we awarded the city with a $41,000 grant to purchase and install 4 new pedestrian counters. So we hope to get these in, and they will help us pretty much get a better count on our trail activity in a lot of the spaces that we are trying to pretty much ramp up community engagement and community activity on the trails. Next slide. So our first one will be located on the Jones Falls Trail. They will be located at the crossing on Falls Way. Right there is an active switchbacks section that connects to the other part of the Jones. And as John mentioned earlier, we've been installing pretty much the Zelt format. So it would be a counter installed in the physical trail, but it will also be another counter post setup that will also do a pedestrian count. So we're really looking forward to getting this new technology. And this is pretty much a really active spot on the Jones Falls. So we're trying to collect more data there. Next slide. And our next location will be on the Gwynns Falls Trail. This is located at the trailhead in Carroll Park. The Carroll Park is located in Pigtown, for any of you who are not that familiar with Baltimore. So that park has a lot of good amenities, open place fields. It also is located directly beside the golf course. So in this spot, it will be located right after the informational signs, and it will have the same format of the Zelt counter in the trail and a post counter on the side. Next slide. For our third location, this is a new location, so we don't have graphics built up to where exactly the trail counter location will be, but we know it will either be at the left or the right side of the middle branch section of the Gwynns Falls Trail. So this is on the other side of the trailhead that starts at Carroll Park. So this part of the path also has had a new pretty much trailhead repaved at the top where the parking is. So this is the lower section that goes around the river. And we're hoping to get a better count there because we're trying to ramp up activity on that trail, being that there's a whole new trail plan that's going to be done for Middle Branch, a part of the Reimagine Middle Branch project. Next slide. And for our final counter, this is going to be at Herring Run Park, which is located pretty close to Lake Montebello in North Baltimore. So there's a lot of amenities around this park. It's located very close to Clifton Park and also Morgan State University. And we chose to put this trail counter at the Bel Air Road entrance. It's like the middle section point of both of the trails. But it's a lot of activity that happens in this section because you have the paved trail that's there, but you also have a kind of a counter route that's used as like a mountain bike and hiking trail. So we're hoping we can get a lot of the pedestrian count and cyclist counts that's there. And this trail here is really a main component of the Baltimore Greenway Trail Network because this is our only corridor that's not connected by any other segments yet. So you actually have to drive to this part and park and use this section unless you use the bikeways on the road or such to get to this park. So this space is located a little bit behind. If you see it's a blue shed right there, they call that the movie shed. But this is a really active part and it's schools located really close that use this trail as well. So we're really hoping these trail counters can give us a better account of how much activity is happening in Harriman Park. And you can go to the next slide.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Quentin. So this is our final slide here. And it just kind of shows our the bike and pedestrian program launch, which it shows the 7 or 8 objectives that we had to or have to complete. I want to highlight number 7 and number 8. So we've kind of done most of these now. We're kind of on number 6, 7, and 8 throughout this process. Why number 7, the create public dashboard, is very important for us, is because, you know, in Baltimore City, there's a lot of people that don't want bike lanes as well as people in this region. I'm sure all of you have that problem as well. So we work with Eco Counter. They are a company in Montreal, Canada. It's their platform that we are going to be using, and so it'll be a public interface that will show actual bike lane info for people in Baltimore to see that shows that actually people do use the bike lanes here, and that, you know, we should continue to install bike lanes throughout the city. And so, you know, if someone says no one rides a bike here, why should we have a lane? Well, actually, you know, we see here on this public interface that this lane was used, you know, 1,000 times in the week, and, you know, it definitely gets a lot of ridership. So that's kind of where I'm at now, kind of, you know, focusing on improving our bike counter with 8 to 10 brand new counters through MDOT, as well as adding Quentin's 4 that he spoke about. We hope to have probably around, you know, hopefully 20 or so by the end of this fiscal year. So I'll be able to kind of give a lot more info as that takes place. But thank you again. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Quentin and John. Any questions for the two of them from the group?
I have a question. This is Chris,
Chris?
Howard County. So when we have a similar product, not the exact same product, but we have a couple of counters in Howard County, and we have had a little trouble with the accuracy and the usage of them. We're going to have to go back and do a little bit of a reinstall, I think. So I was just asking in general, when these were installed, who helped you with that? Did you did you have a contractor to actually do the install, especially the in-ground portion, or did you use city staff support from other departments? Any tidbits on your installation to make sure they're working properly and set up properly?
Yeah, sure. So we actually have two companies that we're contracted to use here. Glenelg Contracting is the company that we use to install the 10 bike counters, and then they're also installing the 4 that Quentin's ordering for us as well. So they did a very awesome job, and we're going to be using them in the future. So
Thank you.
yep.
Along those lines, are you guys using video data or anything else to verify accounts?
So at this time, that answer is a no, but there is the option for that in the future. That would take some more funding, but there are bike counters that can count that as well. So that's definitely a long-term objective for us that we're definitely focused on.
All right. Thank you both for joining us. Interesting presentation. I guess with that, we'll head on to the next agenda item. Happy to introduce Vice Chair of the group here, Steve Cahoon from Queen Anne's County, who's going to talk about their pedestrian bicycle master plan. Thanks, Steve. You're on mute, Steve.
Well, that's not going to work very well. Thank you. Steve Cahoon with the Department of Public Works in Queen Anne's County. And I've been working with the Department of Parks and Recreation to put together the Bike and Ped master plan for the county. It's the first plan that the county's done for specific to Bike and Ped. Previous to this, we relied on our comprehensive plan. You know, we had transportation improvements and bike and ped improvements listed in our comp plan and recommendations. And then we also had a local transportation plan focused on Kent Island, but this was the first countywide look at a bike and ped plan. The consultant we used is Kimley Horn. They've been a long-time consultant working with Queen Anne's County, and they have a large stockpile of information on our transportation issues and have a real good understanding. So they were an excellent fit for this plan. And we started about a year ago on the Bike and Ped plan, and we have not completed the plan yet, but we're in the final drafting stages, and we'll be moving to final approval in April. So this slide shows kind of the process we've gone through so far. First step, as in many of the plans and documents you guys have dealt with, we had to gather data. So we looked at our existing mapping that we had, our GIS mapping. We had some sidewalk and pedestrian and trail information in our GIS layers, so that was helpful. We also looked at our comprehensive plan, the transportation plans, and then we also had to go back and work with MDOT on the sidewalks and the sidewalk layer in the area. So we pulled all the information we had, and then we went out to the public. We did a large public outreach, and we did a couple different things there. We did a public survey, we did stakeholder meetings, we had an online map people could comment on, and we held public outreach meetings. And then we have another round of public input coming up. Now that we have a final document, we're going to go back out to the public, get any final comments they have on the plan. And then we have the public process of getting approval before the Board of County Commissioners coming up as well. So we have more opportunities for public input coming up. Then after we got the public input, and we also pulled other information looking at the state plan and level of stress, we started coming up with recommendations for routes throughout the county. And as you can imagine, the public input was very specific to where people lived, and everybody wanted a bike route close to where they lived. So we got input from throughout the county. And the routes, pretty much span throughout the county, as you'll see in a few minutes. So we created a whole, web of a network of potential paths, and then we had to pare that down. Obviously, one of the public policy issues we had to deal with was creating realistic expectations in what could be done. So after the public, came out and recommended a large number of trails, we had to pare that down and prioritize which trails we were going to focus on first to try to build out, give a realistic expectation of what might you see in the short term, the midterm, and long term. So we kind of created tiers for each of those. And we're on the edge of adopting this plan and we'll begin implementing it. So next slide. In the public input section, we had a survey, and a lot of the survey focused on what type of user are you, what type, and how often do you use our trails, and if the trails were improved or separated from roadways, would you use them more often? If you felt safer on the trails, would you use them more often? Those types of questions. And no surprise, a large amount of the response was, I'm a trail user, I'm interested in the trail system, I use it occasionally, I only use the sections of it or the roadways where I feel safe, and if you expand it and make it feel safer, I'll use it more often. That kind of what we expected to hear. And the county has 2 existing trail sections, which I say probably influenced that survey. Our existing main trail sections that have the heaviest public use are the Cross County Connector Trail, which is a standalone trail separated from any roads or right-of-way that is north of US 50 that runs from the Chesapeake Bay across through the Kent Narrows into Graysonville. It's a very safe, very comfortable trail, very nice experience, and a lot of our users are accustomed to that. And then we have a similar trail on Maryland 8 South called the Southern Kent Island Trail. And it pretty much runs south, paralleling Maryland 8, but it's a separated bike trail. Again, very safe feeling. You're not competing with any traffic, not on the shoulders, and cars aren't buzzing by. So many of our users were used to using those 2 facilities, and that's what they like and feel safe on. So that's what they would like to see in the future. We had a round of stakeholder meetings. The stakeholders included people from economic development and tourism. They also included advocacy groups, bike groups, trail users. We also had a specific focus group related to town-county people, related to the implementation and maintenance and long-term care of the trail systems. We wanted to make sure we hit on that a little bit and got their comments. And then we also had a steering committee made up of different people from different departments in the county to bring different perspectives to the group. So the stakeholder meetings gave us a lot of specific information on long-term care and maintenance that the towns and the county run into, things not to forget about budgeting, about the upkeep of the trail after 10, 15, 20 years. We have to budget for it, we have to plan on it. Economic development and tourism, the opportunities it creates for businesses wanted the trails to come by their places. We had the tourism aspect, marketing trails for people to come to Queen Anne's County as a destination. Come drive across the bridge, park your car, get on your bike, go down the trail, stop at the restaurant in the Kent Narrows, come on back, and kind of trying to market it and make it a tourism opportunity. And then we had open house, and we had a lot of, probably maybe 30 to 40 people from the general public come out and attend that meeting. Just real quick on the survey results, we had an online survey and an online map. For the online survey, we had 298 responses, which we felt was pretty good for a jurisdiction of 50,000 people. And we had 157 specific map comments, and the map was interactive where people could draw lines and say, I would like a bike route in this location, or, you know, we need a safe place to walk to the schools, or we need, you know, this gap in the sidewalk filled in order to safely, you know, get to work or something, you know. So it was a very interactive map, and we received a lot of good comments from that. So the next slide, we had a lot of public information, a lot of public input from the focus groups, the surveys, and the citizens at the outreach meetings. And then we also took a look at level of stress to see the level of stress maps gave us a real good indicator on, you know, the comfort level of each road, trail, or section that the people were requesting trails to be located on. So, you know, with the different levels of stress, it also identified kind of what type of challenges we might run into. If we have a high volume, high speed road, we know we're going to have to do a separate trail alongside. Riding on that is not going to be a comfortable situation for people. So we know on the higher stress roads, we're going to have more work to do to create a safe, comfortable situation for bikers. On lower stress roads, we might take a different approach and just do signage and striping and not have to do as much in the way of construction. So next slide. We mapped out the levels of stress, or we didn't map it out. We borrowed it from Maryland Department of Transportation. They had already mapped it out for us. So we took their information, which was very helpful in identifying which were high stress roads and where we could find alternatives for low stress roads. And as you see, we have a lot of ground to cover. We go from the Chesapeake Bay all the way up to the Delaware line. And one of the things we found during the survey information and the public outreach was when people wanted to get from one place to the other, it was generally from town to town where they had parks and facilities and employment. And usually the routes they were drawing on were the higher stress roads because they were the most direct routes to from town to town. One of the most popular routes, for example, was from the town of Queenstown to the town of Centerville. And the main routes there, you could either go on a busy highway, Maryland 18, which is very high stress, and low, higher speed. It's high stress because it's narrow road, two-way traffic, high speeds, and no shoulders. So it's not ideal for bike situation, but it's also the shortest distance. We could come up with alternative bike routes to go around Maryland 18 and have lower stress routes, but it added, significant mileage to the trip. So then one of the things we're dealing with is do you do the lower stress and longer routes, or do you invest more on the higher stress roads and do the more direct approach? That being said, the level of planning we did here is all just concepts. So we identified the issues, but the next step for any of these routes that we're going to show is really going to be kicking it into a feasibility study, taking a detailed look, looking at, actual survey work, what we can fit in the right of way, where we need additional right of way, or, room for trails that would parallel the highway instead of placing it on the shoulder of the highway or a share of the road situation. So, but level of stress was certainly part of the consideration on all the routes that were selected. So the next slide, we had level of stress, we had the public input, we started identifying the routes and mapping those out. Then we started to look at what constraints occurred just in general. This is a high level planning document. Will we have right of way issues if we try to put a trail in this location? Are utilities and power lines, their location is going to be an issue with fitting a trail in? Will we have enough right of way? Will we have to purchase right of way? those types of issues. So just to get a general idea, we started to create project pages for each of the routes. So if you go to the next slide, this is a list of all the actual routes that the public were asking for, and the routes that came out of our public outreach and our existing public documents. And as you can see, it kind of spans the entire county. If it follows really the roads that go from town to town to town. It's really covers the entire county. So when we got the total number of routes, we started looking at, what's realistic, what's feasible. If we put this out to the public that we're going to do all this, it's unrealistic. We aren't going to be able to do it. So we decided to start narrowing in on a tiering process of what would be short-term, medium-term, and long-term. And one of the things we considered was, where the existing trails were. The existing trails are shown in green. And as you can see, really, there's only the couple on Kent Island that I talked about. Then we looked at the existing sidewalk network, which may play into it. If you go to the next slide, we add that in, and then your incorporated towns, kind of pop that, your incorporated towns with their sidewalk networks play a part in this. But getting to and from them is a big part of the route selection. So then if we go to the next slide, we had all these different routes. So we started to look at safety, the level of stress. Safety, one of the big things we used for safety was the level of stress analysis that was done, the crash data that's out there and available. So safety was one criteria. Accessibility, what connected people to the town to town, people to parks, people to schools, people to commercial activities or places of employment. That was a high priority for us in making the system usable. Connectivity was also a high priority. What recommendations from the public connected to existing systems? As a county employee and a person at Public Works, we're looking at how can we extend the existing network that we have, progressing and building out. And so connectivity, it became a big part of a realistic expectation. We know we aren't going to go build a 5-mile section out in the rural area just because a few people asked for it. We realistically know that our system has a core area, and we're going to build out from that area. So connecting to existing trails, existing bicycle lanes, and existing sidewalks was a high priority in how we selected trails for the top tier. Health and comfort was a part of the criteria. Where could we build those? Equity pulled into it. We have a fair, we have a high transportation inequity. Basically, we're a jurisdiction where everybody needs to have a car. If you don't have a car, it's really difficult to get around. And part of our building out our system is to provide a multimodal option for people, where over time, the way the county's evolved as a suburban county with a major highway running through it, sidewalks and trails and bike and pedestrian access was not the main priority in the past. But now we're trying to build that in and trying to create networks where people can get from place to place from their homes. That's a part of it. Multimodal, it currently doesn't exist. Getting to bus stops, getting to park and ride locations doesn't, you know, it's a challenge for us because we don't have the existing network of roads and stuff. And then county priority, that feeds back to what I said about knowing how the county was going to build out, where the investment's already been made, where the existing trail system is, and how we would build out. So if we go to the next slide, we'll give you an example of what a general project page in our plan is going to look like. We took all the different routes that were selected and created individual project pages, and we started to identify opportunities, the length of the trail, the level of stress that we would incur, potential constraints. And so this kind of gives a summary of what the trail would look like. You know, will it connect things? Here we have a high level of connectivity because it connects to an existing trail system. It connects people to businesses and residential areas to businesses. It has a low safety rating, which in this case means it's a safe route. It has a low level of stress. Safety means with this gauge means it's a safer route. And so safety is already built into this route. If you had a very high level of stress, improving safety would be the five red dots there. So kind of you know, kind of just trying to gauge the different routes so we could compare them. And then also the public support. You know, the public asked for like this trail. They had asked for it during the public workshops, during the public surveys, but it may not have been identified in the comp plan. So just trying to gauge the public support for each of the trails. So if we go to the next page, we started the prioritization, and we have top tier prioritization. So this is kind of our first most realistic short-term plan for the trails. You can see the existing trails in green. And the red trails are the proposed trails or new trails, and they're building on the existing system. So that you know, short term, this is what the public can expect to see. This is where we're going to focus our priorities. If you go to the next one, we start looking at the midterm trails, and you see it starting to build out into the farther reaches of the county, connecting Centerville to Tuckahoe State Park, connecting Centerville to other parks on rural roads, connecting towns to each other. So, and then if we go to the next slide, you're looking at the long-term network of looking at filling in just some alternative routes to get to those same locations. So next slide. That was the bulk of the work to create the plan, was the public outreach, the mapping of it, creating priorities, and creating the tiers. Our plan also includes existing condition maps, the prioritization we talked about. It also has information on potential grant funding, where to focus our efforts for grant funding. And it also touches on the long-term maintenance of trails that needs to be a part of you know, making sure the trails are safe in the long term, and that we can afford and budget to keep them maintained the way they need to be. And also education enforcement played a role in making sure people know the rules of the road and the rules for biking and ped when using our facilities. So those were some of the other things that are included in the recommendations. So that's kind of where we are right now. The final draft will be out probably this week for a final round of public comment, and we'll be taking the plan to the county commissioners in April for final approval. So, you know, thank you very much. Any questions at this point?
Any questions from the group? Steve, do you feel like you have pretty good support for this from the county council? Or has that been something you've had to work on?
Now, our existing trails are very popular and we have a lot of support there. The lack of, multimodal, walking and biking trails and paths, it's been an identified need for a long time. So it has the support of the citizens as well as the council. And, we're working on building trail sections down Maryland 8 now. And they're being very well received by the public. But they want them separated from the road network. They want them standalone. They want them very safe and very comfortable. But no, we have a lot of support right now.
It's great to hear.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks a bunch. All right, moving along. Next presentation is Baltimore Region Crash Data Dashboard. I want to introduce Charles Baber and Cindy Birch, both here.
Thanks. So this is some work that's been working with Cindy. Cindy's our safety planner, and I'm kind of just a number guy back here at BMC. So what we're going to show is a little bit of a prototype where it's kind of grown over time, and what I'm showing here is a little recycle of an older presentation. What's actually online is something a little bit different. We're having some performance issues. It's over time it's growing and becoming a little more complicated, and so not functioning very well. But we're working on it and trying to streamline things right now. So hopefully we'll get back to what it looks like in this presentation. So next slide, real quick. So all the dashboards, we have dashboards kind of covering 5 different areas listed there, and they're all available on our web page. And then the crash dashboard is under the system performance category. So next slide. Okay, so if you open up the dashboard, you'll get kind of a disclaimer, which is in the bottom left. It's also helpful within Tableau. It's a Tableau dashboard. If you can navigate down to the bottom right hand and go full screen, it'll look a little bit nicer on your browser. There's also an email contact. If you have an issue or a problem, if you send an email to that address, it will come to Cindy and myself, and we'll try to get back to you. The green box just kind of gives you some information about when we last updated it. And then there's 4 tabs. There's kind of a summary tab, a little bit of an analysis tab, and then a crash map, and then finally like a little bit of an equity analysis. Next slide. So if you click on the first tab, it's going to get to a summary page. And the summary page on the left-hand side in the gray is kind of all the filters. And so there's a filter for jurisdiction. And so the drop-down filter allows you to pick multiple jurisdictions. There's a filter so right now it's set to Anne Arundel County. There's a filter for agency, and that's the reporting agency. So it could be the state police or Anne Arundel County Police or that City of Annapolis Police or any other police department has a crash record tied associated with Anne Arundel County. You can then filter in with the year. They're kind of a slider. So if you wanted to just look at 19 to 20, you would just move those 2 sliders in and out. You can also look at month and day of the week and hour of the day. And once again, when you drop down, you do multiple selections. So you can select if you want to look at by season, or if you want to look at Monday through Thursday versus Saturday and Sunday, or if you want to look at the midday versus the morning peak or evening peak, you can select different hours. So each of the boxes with an eye icon it's gonna give you kind of a tooltip and tell you what it is. So on the left-hand side of the where the matrix is of crash reports totaled, and that's this summary of the different emphasis areas. And so, like I said, the eye icon will tell you what's associated with. I think it's particularly for this committee, probably the pedestrian and the bicycle one's most interesting. And then that's segmented by kind of facility type. So we have interstates, state roads, and local roads. The local roads kind of a little bit of a catch-all. Should have stayed up earlier. We made no attempt to clean or change anything in the crash report. So there's a handful of roadway types. For instance, some officer entered WB, which I suspect he meant to enter that in a direction, but that's in the route type. So I don't know what road type that really is, and so that just kind of falls in under local. And then each of the crash records for each one of the facility types by the emphasis areas is whether or not it's a fatal. And this is the most severe outcome of either the driver, the passenger, or the non-motorist. So fatal or serious, minor, or just property damage. Next, please. So then you can do a little bit of digging into the analysis. So on the bottom hand left, this filter is all the same, jurisdictions and so forth. That. And then on the bottom is the behavior. So all the emphasis areas on the previous page, you can filter this page by those, and this particular one is being filtered by impaired driving, and it shows you by year, gives you the number of crash records, and then gives you the total number of fatality, the total number of injured. And I see a little bit of an issue, so I have to go back and look and see what's going on there. But within the red areas allows you to do a little bit more filtering. You have to you have to select a particular year. In this case, it's 2022. You can check whether or not what kind of severity level you want to look at, and then it just summarizes by month and day of the week, and then by hour of the day. So since this is impaired driving, all the crashes seem to happen at the overnight periods. Next slide, please. And then there's also a mapping feature. Once again, you also notice real quickly that there's crashes, kind of hard to see, but there are crashes that are outside Anne Arundel County. This is the lat long that's associated with the crash record. If you do hover, Tableau also uses a lot of tooltips. So if you hover over any one of the crash locations, it will give you information about where that location is, or at least there is a lot of, if you've worked with the data before, there is a lot of geocoding issues. The same filters as before. There's also an additional filter on a roadway. So for instance, in Anne Arundel County, if you wanted to look at all the crashes associated with Route 2, you could either select the route type, which would be state routes, and then the route number would be Route 2, or if you knew the name, this is all the names that state highway uses, or if you, so you can do it both ways. So Maryland 2, I'm not too sure, Crane Highway and probably other sections may call it something else. But you also have things like College Parkway. College Parkway also has a route number. Probably no one knows what that route number is except somebody at SHA. So in that case, you would select local roads, and then road name would be College Parkway. And then once again, you can change the behavior. So it's still using impaired driving. And so when you change that all around, all the numbers are going to change. So the little pie charts with the number of drivers, passengers, and non-motorists by their injury severity, and then the little colored boxes on the left-hand side of, all those calculations get updated as you change things around. Next slide, please. And this is a little bit of an attempt to kind of look at a little bit of an equity analysis. So the same filters on the left-hand side, but in addition to that, there's we're using the American Community Survey. There's race, ethnicity, zero-car households, households below poverty. And then when you select an ACS variable, up in the top right-hand corner is going to give you the total population for the county. In this case, we've selected race, so it's giving you the total Black African-American alone population, this according to the 5-year ACS data, and then the share in the jurisdiction, so 17%. So then within each block group, it's going to be colored whether or not it's above or below that 17%. And so then it's going to give you a pie chart that's going to tell you the number of crashes that are above or below areas that are with the African-American population above and below 17%. And then it's going to summarize the crashes by fatal severity, possible minor suspected by bicyclists, pedestrians, other, and give you the total count. And then, once again, now this map was going to give you a few little bit. And now I should also say that this map here is only using crash records that have a non-motorist associated with it. And this might give you a little bit more different totals than you might see in other places on the dashboard. Other places on the dashboard don't necessarily care where the crash was. Since we're joining the crash record, remember there's crash records that have bad lat longs. And since we're joining it to the block group, it has to be within Anne Arundel County in order to see whether or not it's above or below. So this map excludes a few crash. Last page, please. And there's our contact information. Like I said, if you email that on that first page I showed you on the landing page, that address will come to Cindy and I. And right now, only the first two tabs are up. Like I said, we're working to try to streamline a little bit. It's the performance issue has gotten a little bit bad, and it's kind of grown over time. And so I found a little bit of mistake today. So working on fixing things. And with that, if there's any questions, or Cindy, you have anything to add, feel free.
Nope, great job, Charles, thank you. And from what I hear, I'm not sure we have anybody from State Police on. The 2024 crash data hopefully will be posted in the next few weeks. They did a data collection system update that was pretty significant. So they're also working on their online query tools for us to be able to pull that down. So might be a busy few weeks, but then it should all be up there.
Cindy and Charles, can you post the link to the dashboard in the chat? Is that possible?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking about that, Chris. It was on my mind as well. I may have just missed it, but does the dashboard update in real time, or how often does the data change?
So we that first landing page, we try to provide that information in that green box. That green box tells you what the starting and end date of the data that's collected. The last time we did a full download. Cindy knows much more about the crash records than I do, but my general understanding is that the crash records can change from state highway. An example was given to me is, you were expected of being an impaired driver, but obviously they don't have the blood alcohol results right there and there. That comes in later, and so that's added to the database. So when I do download a full data set, I have been downloading previous data sets and updating them. But it will show you the last time I downloaded a full data set.
State Police is committed to keeping 5 years up on their public download site. So 2018 is no longer available on theirs, but Charles already had it downloaded. So we have that, and they update that at 2 or 3 in the morning every morning. So it's as near real time as we can get, but like Charles said, there may be updates. So whether we set a regular quarterly, monthly, whatever download it may be from State Police for our dashboard, or upon request, something like that, is, like you said, why everything was in that box on the front page, just so you know. And if you need something more recently or urgently for a grant application or some other project evaluation or something, you can always reach out to us and see if we can get more recent for you.
Great, thank you, Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments out there? Well, I know I'll be using this. I appreciate you all sharing the dashboard.
And if you have any other ideas, Charles claims he's loving this. That's how it's grown so much and so fast. So if you have new ideas, it was really structured around a lot of y'all's local SHSP emphasis areas to begin with. So I'll toss you out there, Charles, that there's room for more.
All right. Well, thank you both. We are on to item 6 on the agenda. I want to introduce Aaron Bolton from BMC, who's going to give us an update on the regional bicycle facilities inventory. Take it away, Aaron.
Hey,
And
thanks,
you
Sam.
should be able to share now.
Yes, let me just try to do this correctly. All right. Are you all seeing the slides, Charlene?
Yes, it looks good.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Bolton, GIS coordinator at Baltimore Metropolitan Council, and Charlene invited me here today to do a little update on our regional bicycle facilities inventory, which is our database or data set of all of the bicycle facilities in the Baltimore Metro region. So a little history, we started collecting this data in 2016 based on, priority from this group, from BPEG voting that we should do this. And that was, it originated from the need to create a regional map of all the existing facilities. And we also wanted to get a handle on all the planned and program facilities to aid in regional and also cross-jurisdictional planning efforts. So since then, it's been updated annually. We've just finished our annual update from 2023, which was a bit of a bigger project than the usual annual updates. So we're excited to share, the data is available now on our open data site, which is linked here. And we've also published the data in an app so that you can look around and explore the existing facilities. We also do have the planned bicycle and trail use facilities are available for internal use. So if you want a copy of that data set and didn't already receive it when we distributed it last week, you can just reach out to Charlene and she can get you in touch with that. So what was different this year was we changed the schema for the data, the different fields and items that were collected in the data table. We coordinated extensively with both MDOT and with our member jurisdictions and a lot of you here on this call to develop that new schema. The main goals were to be able to catalog more bicycle facility types. A lot of newer types are coming online and getting built in our region. We also wanted to align it with the MDOT SHA schema, how they're collecting data statewide for bicycle facilities. And then they're using that, they're able to use that in their level of traffic stress analysis. So we wanted to really line up what we're doing with that so that to make that whole process simplified. And then another hope was to actually simplify the annual update process for our member jurisdictions, because what this will allow us to do, but previously it was like a whole separate data set that had to be updated. Now it can be handled as just a few extra fields added to your own city level or county level data set and then just like exported for us each year, hopefully. So if that sounds interesting and you want more details, let me know and I can walk you through kind of how that might hopefully be simplified for you. But so the overall process is that we contact the member jurisdictions, our member jurisdictions, to submit those updated data sets. We've reviewed them, checked them over, compiled them into one big data set for the region. And then, as I said, we've just gone and distributed that back to the jurisdictions, put it in our web map, and we've also submitted it to M.SHA. They're going to be using that, or they have already used it, to update their state bicycle facilities inventory that's part of like their One Maryland, One Centerline system. So we have this app. Actually, I'm going to switch here and do a little bit of a live demo. So hang on one second. So this is our new app that went live and public last week. Just a little grading screen here, but so you can use this app if you want to look at our existing bicycle facilities throughout the region. Again, this is based on data that you all have submitted to us back in the fall for the most part. And just wanted to give a very quick overview today of what you can find here. So the legend shows you what's displayed on the map. Well, let me zoom out a little here, sorry. We do have a few different base map options available if you want to look at this over top of imagery. We also have some enhanced contrast maps here for people with different visual impairments. This details section is a more detailed how to use this map, so it explains what each of the components and buttons are for. But here in the layers, we do have a few supporting layers in here that you can turn on. So you can turn on county boundaries. You can turn on SHA prohibited routes if you want to see that. And in here, you can also see what your legend items mean. And then additionally, if you zoom in, we've also overlaid our regional public transit stops and routes data sets. So, I mean, these get pretty detailed, but you know, you can zoom in here and select different items and get more information about them. Anything you select will display over here in the left-hand sidebar. And then let me just turn some of those back off. Zoom back up. And then another tool that's new in this version of the app is just a kind of simple filter tool here. So you can filter for if you're looking for a certain type of bicycle facility by our major type categories, you can select that here and you'll see where the facilities are. This one at the top might be of most use, which is a group of shared use, but also protected and buffered bike lanes. So you can kind of get a quick view of where some of those higher quality facilities are in our region. So let me just switch back to all right. You got the PowerPoint again, right, Charlene? Sorry.
Yes,
it's hard to tell on my end what you can see. Okay, thank you. So this was just in the PowerPoint, but we just kind of went over all that. So just wanted to give you a little more details though about what has changed about the schema. So over here on the left are the categories of bike facilities that we used to collect. So we collected bike lane, separated bike lane, signed and designated bike route, sharrows or marked shared lane, and then shared use or path or transportation trail. These have been changed into the main types that the state uses. The main thing is an added category at the bottom of protected bike lane. Also, some of these separated bike lanes in number 2 in the old schema, what on the left would actually end up in number 4 in the new schema on the right if they were separated with vertical separation that would make them a protected lane. So yeah, again, the main advantage here is that this new schema captures more different bike facility types, and it also lines up with how the state is tracking these. So this gives you just a little more detail. There's also subtypes within all of those. So those are the major types, and the major types are used for calculating LTS. That's why those categories exist. But then within each of those categories, there's several different subtypes. For example, protected bike lane has cycle tracks. Also protected bike lanes or protected contraflow bike lanes. Shared road lane encompasses a number of different types as well, from bike route to shared bike bus lane, anywhere where you're sharing the road lane potentially with other vehicles, cars. So because this is sort of a new system, Charlene and I thought it would be helpful to walk through some examples. So we've prepared a PDF of all these different facility types. So this is sort of extracted from there, but hopefully this will help maybe bridge the gap at times between the planning staff and GIS staff who may not be as familiar with the bike facility types. I know it's been helpful for me. I've been learning a lot about bike facilities. So, you have a side path, separated path, which is within the roadway right away, as opposed to a multi-use path, which is separated you know, path often in like a park or other areas that's not related to the roadway. Under protected bike lanes, subtype here is cycle track. So we're showing, you know, this is a image. Actually, a lot of these come from NACTO, the images that we used showing, you know, just showing a quick illustration of its two ways, and it's got vertical separation from the vehicle traffic. Or you could have just a protected bike lane that's one way, but has the vertical separation. And protected contraflow lane, which is the same thing, it's just you're going in the opposite, the bikes are going the opposite direction from the vehicular traffic. Then you move on to standard bike lanes. This one we're all pretty familiar with. Then we'd have a buffered bike lane, so a standard bike lane with a designated buffer space. Shared road lane, the example here, subtype shown here is the bike boulevard. So you have signage and also pavement markings and speed management, and also a certain level of volume of traffic expected on the street that would designate it as a bike boulevard. A diagram here showing a shared bike bus lane. And there's a few more types, like such as sharrows and things, that are also represented in the full PDF. That PDF has been distributed at various times, but you can also get to it from the app link, which we'll put, I guess, in the chat. If you look at the metadata under the app, you'll be able to see where to download a copy of that PDF.
And Aaron, I put a link to the app in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charlene. Perfect. So looking forward, we just wrapped up the previous one, but for, you know, the 2024 year data, we will just wanted to outline next steps. We'll be requesting that updated data for January 2025. That's what we hit on as the most sort of seemed like would work for the most jurisdictions to be after the end of construction season, and before perhaps a busy spring season for some jurisdictions. And then we'll collect that data and compile it again into the regional data set and distribute it back out to everyone to use. I guess if you have any questions or thoughts on that timeline, just reach out to me or Charlene, because we'd love to hear, you know, specific feedback or concerns if you have any on that. And I do believe that's it, unless there's any questions.
Aaron, I have a question. Can you remind me, are you and anybody else at BMC that's assisting you, are you making the changes to the data that you already have from the jurisdictions, or did you put a request in for the jurisdictions to sort of make the classification change on our end and then kind of resubmit?
Yeah, essentially the latter. Yes, we're asking the jurisdictions to ideally it would work if you could add some fields to your own internal bike data that just capture these type and subtype classifications. That would make it really easy to just, when we need the data in January, just to kind of export what you have. I do believe that's how a number of the jurisdictions decided to handle it. And so then when they did that in 2023, now for going forward, it's just a matter of like any new facilities added, in addition to adding your own internal classifications, whatever you're calling those types of facilities, to just fill in the fields for how they fit into the regional classification. Or, you know, if anything's changed, or yeah, new additions and any substantial changes, I guess, in existing facilities. But otherwise, if you're not maintaining that classification as you're going along, you could either, it is possible to just submit the edited, you know, the newly added facilities for the most part. Or I'd be happy to chat about like what might be the easiest way. You know, we're trying to make it simple for the jurisdictions to be able to submit this data and get it in this regional format. I know the data management side of it can always be a bit of a pain.
So the schema is basically this, it's the same as what I think we did an update last year that it's the same as that, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Last year was you know, a bit of a big ask to do the new schema, but hopefully now that that's in place, we'll make it easier to update every year.
All right, so yeah, I know on our end, we're not gonna have too many changes. I had one other follow-up question. Going back to the standard bike lane category, there was a subtype that was separated bike lane, if I saw it correctly, and just wanted to make sure I understood. It seems like that would be, let's see, yeah.
Was it this one you were looking at?
Yeah, so number 2 on standard bike lane, did that just
Here.
mean, you know, you have a buffer but no vertical barrier, no flexi posts, just, I think it's confusing to me to see that because, you know, I think of the protected bike lane as being separated, but I guess in the case of the standard bike lane, you might have a painted buffer, or striped buffer, but there's just no vertical separation, right?
Yes.
Yes. And sorry, maybe this slide could you do with a little bit of like magic marker on it. But this side here, this green column is actually the old schema.
Oh, I see.
So in the old schema, we did have, you're right, we had that one category called separated bike lane, and that was exactly the problem, is that it included both buffered and protected. And so the new schema splits those out separately. So you have protected bike lane
Okay.
here, and you have the buffered bike lane here. But yeah, so what this right hand side was meant to show is just the most basic level of how you could convert things.
Okay, I think I'm clear now.
Okay, yeah. In the new schema, there's nothing called a separated bike lane. That's either buffered or protected.
Okay. And the implication with protected is that it does include some sort of vertical separation, not just stripes.
Yeah, so I guess to look at it this way, oops. Protected, I mean, this is a cycle track, but examples of vertical separation include flex posts, bollards, concrete curbs, planters, concrete barriers, parking stops, raised bumps, parked cars, and more. So something vertically between the vehicular traffic and the bike facility.
Yeah, thanks.
And I dropped in the chat a link to that bike facility subtype examples, which is what these slides are summarizing. So that'll include definitions taken, you know, from ASHTO and NACTO typically are going to be the sources for those definitions. But if you have any questions about them, let us know. That's something we can continue to improve if you see any issues or if things aren't clear in how it's laid out.
Great. Any other questions from the group? All right. Well, thanks a lot, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you all.
Well, we are at the much awaited agenda item 7, where we go around and do the roundtable discussion of current things happening in each jurisdiction. So I think I start off with City of Annapolis. We are, you know, as always, continue to advance our major projects, the West East Express and the College Creek Connector, both funded by MDOT Bikeways Network funding, and we also have TAP funding for the West East Express. We are hoping to move into, you know, the bidding phase by late fall on the West East Express. If so, we've moved through a lot of community engagement on that, as well as on the College Creek Connector. Hilltop Lane Connector is another state-funded project that's moving into 65% design. And we got a Safe Streets for All grant this year, so that is going to allow us to do a complete streets and traffic safety plan that'll prioritize bike and pedestrian improvements in the city. I think that is all from City of Annapolis. Anne Arundel County, I believe, would be next. Anybody? I don't think we have anybody from Anne Arundel today. Is that right?
No, I don't see anybody from Anne Arundel today.
Okay. Let's see. So next,
Baltimore City.
Baltimore City. Thanks, John.
Yeah, so other than the bike counter program things I explained, we have the Boston Street connector that we are getting estimates approval from right now, and that's about it from my end.
All right. Thanks, John. Baltimore County. Anybody here from Baltimore County?
Yes, hi, it's Jessie Bialik.
Hey, Jess.
Hey. So we are also trying to move a bunch of projects forward. We have quite a few in the pipeline for design that we're hoping to have completed by the end of this year. That is our Six Bridges Trail in Towson, as well as our West-East Trail, which would connect Double Rock Park with, excuse me, Linover Park. We are still working on our section of Northeast Trail from Hazelwood up to Rossville Boulevard, which is an overlay. We're also working on some sections north of that on the Perry Hall Boulevard side to fill in some of those gaps. And we've got some various bike lane projects going in this spring.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Carroll County, please.
Hi, this is Claire with Carroll County. We have our Washington Road Safe Routes to School project. We had one contractor bid on the construction phase, so we're working on a contract with them right now. And then we're working with the city of Westminster on a potential grant application for their Wakefield Valley Park. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Claire. Hartford County. Not have anybody. All right. Howard County.
Hi, Chrissy Tuff here. I'll mention that we've recently started working on updating our neighborhood traffic calming procedures in Howard County, which have been mostly based on speed humps in recent past, but we're updating the process that we work with the community to respond to requests for neighborhood traffic calming, including more options than speed humps and just a more kind of inclusive, transparent process. We're also working on rolling out our bike wayfinding signage system. We've been working on that for a while. We're ready to start rolling it out this spring and into the summer. It'll be phased. We have lots of signs that need to go in, but we're working on a few colored routes for bike wayfinding to get us started on that. In terms of bike lane implementations, we will be working with our resurfacing program and DPW. The main one we've got lined up is for Columbia Road in the Columbia area from Little Patuxent Parkway to Maryland 108. And then we do have a whole bunch of sidewalk projects as well that are scheduled to get going this spring and summer construction season. Probably too many to list here, but we're busy with sidewalk installations. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Steve with Queen Anne's County.
Yep, thank you. I have the master plan that we had just talked about. That's keeping us busy. Also we have a section of the South Island Trail under construction. It's about a mile-long section. And then we have a final kind of a gap in the South Island Trail that we're planning on doing planning and engineering on now. So hopefully when we wrap up construction that's underway now, we'll be able to move directly into that gap that's that mile long gap that's left and have a complete section all the way from US 50 all the way down to the southern tip of Kent Island. So that'll be a great accomplishment once it's done. And then we are beginning planning on extending the Cross Island Trail, which runs east-west north of 50, further east about another mile east. So, starting the planning for that. So ultimately, we're trying to get to the town of Queenstown with that. So looking forward to that over the upcoming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Maryland Department of the Environment.
We don't really have any updates. Apologies, I'm covering for Catherine Celerano.
All right. No worries. MDP, anybody from planning? MHSO.
Hi, everybody. Cynthia Spriggs again. I just want to mention that our Maryland Safety Summit will be held Monday, May 13th at the BWI Hilton. This year, as if you've been many times before, this is a new location. So we're very excited for this. Our registration is filling up fast. So if you are interested and have not registered, I'll drop the link in the chat so that you can do that. And the only other thing I just wanted to if anybody didn't see it, I just wanted to let everybody know this year for Read Across America Week, the MVA Administrator Nizer and our community engagement team, along with myself, went out to a myriad of different schools throughout the state to read Cheswick the Crab and the Smart Summer book to children. So on our website, also now on our pedestrian safety page, we have a link to that book. So if anybody's interested in checking that out, we also created some resources for different levels of children that the book is appropriate for. So I will also include the news article release for that Read Across America Week. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Cynthia. Appreciate you posting the link in the chat for the event coming up. MTA.
I don't have many project updates, but I wanted to let folks know that I'm going to be leaving MTA in early April to take a few months off before finding another position. We're still working to identify who in MTA's Office of Planning, the Baltimore Project Development Division, is going to be attending BPAG meetings, but we've got a bunch of planners in the office that commute by bike regularly, and they'll be taking over my various different project roles and committee responsibilities.
All right, Patrick. Well, best of luck. Look forward to hearing your next moves and working with you in another capacity. M.SHA. Is Nate here or
Nate?
Francis?
I'm available. You mentioned M.SHA, so that's the reason why I didn't respond since we're at TSO. So if you want me to wait, if there's someone that wishes to respond for SHA.
Molly. Yeah, I guess Molly. Sorry about that.
Hi, no problem. Molly Porter, Bike Ped Coordinator. Don't have too many updates, but did just want to thank everyone who was able to attend one of the grant workshops that was held over the past month and a half. I hope they were helpful in applying for grants for this upcoming season. So thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Molly. Now, Francine, I apologize.
Oh, no worries. I'm sure everyone knows that Nate will be leaving TSO and moving on to SHA. So there you have it. So that's sad for us here, but SHA is very happy. So, and we're happy for him, frankly. So my update would be on the sidewalk data collaboration. And we have finished our third workshop. We have gone through our schema and our tiers, and we are now working on the demonstration. And we will be sending out invitations to join us for our fourth workshop, which will be the demonstration itself. So we're looking forward to bringing everybody back to the table. We started out about 6-8 months ago with this thought of getting sidewalk data into One Maryland, One Center Line. And we are on that threshold of at least doing the demonstration to show what it could do for the state and for all the jurisdictions. So that's my update. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Francine. Last but not least, BMC. Anything else to share?
Yeah, we have a few items. Let's see. So as I mentioned during the presentation earlier, we'll start the Transportation Alternative Work Group. We'll be reaching out late summer, early fall for that one. So just keep your ears open for that. The vision for the Regional Bike Network Project, working with our steering committee and the project team. We want to thank our steering committee so much for helping us craft the new project name and tagline. The chosen name and tagline are Bikeable Baltimore Region, a plan for a safe and connected biking network. So we have another steering committee meeting coming up very soon. And then we'll meet with the advisory committee, which will be more of like nonprofit advocacy groups, different folks. And then we'll have our first public comment period later after that, including a story map and public meetings. So that'll be around spring, summer when that happens. Just want to remind everybody the deadline to request counts for spring 2024 is April 3rd. So if you have any locations you'd like to be considered for the regional bike count program, submit them to the form by April 3rd, and I'll resend out that link with the information to the group. So like, as we talked before, the bike, ped, and scooter counts can be used to assess the potential location of long-term encounters, to measure the change in volume after infrastructure improvements, measure exposure for pedestrians and bicyclists in areas with crash history, support safety assessments, and much more. So if you have a location you'd like to chat about as well, I'm happy to meet before you submit it. Let's see. So that's about all I have for that. And just wanted to, everybody probably got the announcement, but the applications are now open for the first ever funding round of the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program. So that information is out. And let's see, if Anna's here still, I think she can give an update on the Patapsco Regional Greenway preliminary design project for the Stony Run segment.
Sure. Hi, everybody. The Stony Run project is in design right now for the different alternatives, and we have a steering committee meeting coming up the beginning of April to go over those different alternatives, and then we're going to have the second public comment period and public meeting after that to let the public weigh in on those different alternatives as well. So it's going well. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Anna. And then Cindy had some information as well to share.
Thanks. I just dropped a link in the chat. Charlene, I don't know if you want to open it up or not, but I think a lot of you are familiar with the Safe Streets and Roads for All funding program out of the bipartisan infrastructure law. The third round has opened up. The notice of funding opportunity came out a couple weeks ago. What's new and interesting about this one is they now have 3 rolling deadlines. So it is possible to apply for planning and demonstration grants by April 4th, get feedback, and resubmit again, either May 16th or August 29th. The deadline for any implementation grant proposals, though, is May 16th. So that really just applies for the planning and demonstration. If you get some feedback and you want to put something else in, they give you time to do that. Whereas before they weren't able to confirm anything or give feedback. It was all just one solid deadline. So those are out there. I think everybody in the region has received some level of SS4A funding over the first 2 rounds, still encouraging you to do it in round 3. If you're part of your local SHSP team, that's great. Talk to your other folks. If you're unfamiliar with who's running that, feel free to reach out to me and I will get you in touch with those folks. That's it. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. That's all for BMC.
All right. Well, amazingly, we are on schedule and it's just 3 o'clock. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Real quick, Eric, if I can, I think this is the last time we're going to have Patrick at a meeting. I hope all of us wish Patrick well, and we're really going to miss him. He's been a tremendous asset to the committee and to the state of bike and pedestrian planning. So Patrick, we're here for you.
Thanks, Regina. I hope to still be engaged with the committee in some way in whatever new role I have.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Regina, for making that acknowledgement. Is there anything else, any other business that we need to share? Okay.
That's all.
All right. Well, now let's, is there a motion to adjourn? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Chris. Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you, Cynthia. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Thanks, everyone. Next meeting is May 15th, and agenda will be forthcoming.
Wonderful.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone. Good rest of your
Thanks,
day.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.